The call was literally coming from inside the house. By now, everybody and their grandma has heard the viral tale of the high school catfish. You know, the one where a mom spends 2 years cyberbullying her own daughter and her daughter's boyfriend, all under the cloak of anonymity. The story blew up online thanks to a hit Netflix documentary, Unknown Number, The High School Catfish. It had people equal parts horrified and morbidly amused. I mean, it's not every day you hear about a parent pulling a Scooby-Doo villain on their own kid. Most of you already know the broad strokes of this dumb yet fascinating crime, but today I'm revisiting it with a healthy dose of sarcasm, a pinch of philosophy, and all the juicy WTF details. Buckle up, because this small-town saga of Catfish Mom Kendra Licari is a roller coaster of bad decisions, narcissistic parenting, and pure small-minded madness. This is the story of how a seemingly normal Midwestern mother became a secret cyberbully, how it took law enforcement forever to crack a case that an internet-savvy detective solved in basically a day, and what the heck was going on in that woman's head the whole time. We'll talk narcissistic parenting gone wild, generational trauma coming back to bite, small-town gossip and scapegoating, and the human need for attention that spiraled way out of control. And don't worry, I'll sprinkle my own half-baked theories throughout. Because let's face it, as dark as this story is, it's also the kind of stupidity you almost have to laugh at in disbelief. Most of you watching have already binged the doc, read the memes, and formed your opinions, likely strong ones. You might be thinking, why rehash it? Because I can't resist. Consider this the director's commentary track nobody asked for. I'm here to roast and reflect on what went wrong in the high school catfish case, with empathy where it's due, but also with the brutal honesty that this story is absolutely bonkers. So grab some popcorn and let's dive into the twisted tale of Kendra Licari, as we will refer to her in this video, and the dumbest catfishing scheme in recent memory. Our story begins in the tiny, close-knit community of Beale City, Michigan, the kind of one-stoplight town where everyone knows everyone's business, or thinks they do. It's October 2020, and our protagonists are 13-year-old Lauren Licari and her boyfriend Owen McKenney, a pair of fresh-faced teens who were basically the junior high golden couple. Picture this. Both are star student athletes, adorable sweethearts since 7th grade, seemingly living a teenage dream. In a small town, that makes them practically celebrity status. The homecoming king and queen in training, the couple everyone expects to see holding hands at the Friday football game. Life is good and drama is minimal. Until, of course, it isn't. Out of nowhere, just as the new school year kicks off, Lauren's phone buzzes with a strange message from an unknown number. It's a text that no girl wants to get. "Hi Lauren, Owen is breaking up with you. He no longer likes you and hasn't liked you for a while," the anonymous texter claims. Excuse me, what? Imagine you're 13 in puppy love bliss, and suddenly some rando number texts you that your boo is about to dump you cold. That's a heart stopper. Lauren is understandably confused. Owen is literally right next to her denying it, and the two of them start trying to sleuth out which jealous classmate or troublemaker might be messing with them. But the texts don't stop there. In fact, they get weirder and nastier. The unknown texter, let's call them A for now, starts sending messages that sound straight out of a bad teen soap opera. One message insists it's obvious he likes me. He is coming to the Halloween party and we're both DTF. Yes, you read that right. Someone claiming Owen's affection is bragging that they'll be hooking up at a Halloween bash, then they added, "Oh, and by the way, Lauren, you're not invited." It's like Mean Girls, Rural Michigan edition. Lauren and Owen were baffled. Some unknown mean girl is basically saying, "Step aside, he's mine, sorry not sorry." The sheer audacity is almost comical, if it weren't so disturbingly targeted at 2 kids. Now, that particular Halloween party was being thrown by a prominent local family, the Wilsons, and initially Lauren hadn't been invited. But as a boyfriend should, Owen told Lauren, "If I'm going, you're coming with me," effectively inviting her as his +1. So the mystery texter harps on this party drama to drive a wedge. It's quintessential small-town teen gossip fodder, except in this case, it's being manufactured by an anonymous puppet master. Lauren, Owen, and their friends try to figure out who it could be. Is it a jealous ex-friend? A spurned crush of Owen's? The texts are coming from random phone numbers, sometimes even group chats, so it's tricky. Before they can get any real answers, though, the messages suddenly stop. After a flurry of nasty texts around Halloween 2020, it goes silent. For the next 11 months, life mercifully returns to normal. Cue an uneasy sigh of relief from our teen lovebirds and their families. Maybe it was just a short-lived prank or some classmate's idea of a joke that they gave up on. Little do they know, this was only season 1 of the horror show. The villain went on a hiatus, but a year later, the saga would restart with a vengeance, and no one is ready for the plot twist to come. Fast forward to late 2021. Lauren is now 14, Owen 15, and they're still together, cute as ever, despite the previous year's weird drama. And then, right on cue like a bad sequel, the unknown texter A crawls out of the woodwork again. This time, it's a full-on barrage. Starting around September 2021, Lauren and Owen begin receiving new strings of anonymous texts, and these make the Halloween prank look tame. We're talking up to 40 to 50 vile messages a day hitting their phones. 40 to 50. That's more texts than a teenager sends when there's a new Taylor Swift album out. The sender seems almost obsessed, and the content quickly escalates from mean girl gossip to hardcore harassment and disturbing threats. Now, these messages aren't your run-of-the-mill "you suck" trolling. They are extremely explicit and cruel, especially given the targets are 2 young teenagers. The bully spews out graphic sexual claims, for example, describing in lurid detail alleged sex acts between Owen and the imaginary other girl he's cheating with, and hurls vicious insults at Lauren. They call Lauren things like anorexic and worthless, telling her no one wants her around. The texts hammer at every insecurity a teen girl might have, clearly aiming to break down Lauren's self-esteem and torpedo this young romance. It's like someone took the script of Pretty Little Liars and made it their whole personality. And it only gets darker. As months go by, the mysterious texter turns downright menacing. They tell Lauren that the world would be better off if she just ended her life. One message literally reads, "Kill yourself now. Owen's life would be better if you were dead." Yup, they went there, urging a 14-year-old to commit suicide. Another text says, "You are worthless and mean nothing," and threatens her with harm. These are the kind of messages that make your stomach drop when you realize a kid is reading them. It's beyond bullying. It's psychological terrorism. Owen isn't spared either. He's getting daily abuse too, presumably being told things like he's a terrible boyfriend or explicit lies to mess with his head. The harassment becomes a twisted form of relationship sabotage. The bully clearly wants Lauren and Owen to break up, as if they're orchestrating a teen drama for their own gratification. In fact, at one point Owen becomes so desperate to protect Lauren that he calls her and suggests maybe they should break up, in hopes it will appease the bully and make the madness stop. Imagine being a 15-year-old boy telling your girlfriend, "Maybe we need to stage a breakup, because some psycho is demanding it." That's how cornered these kids felt. In the end, the relentless strain drives them apart. The once golden couple breaks up under the pressure. Exactly what the bully wanted. Even that wasn't enough for A. This puppet master behind the scenes seemed to thrive on the drama itself, not any logical end goal. After Lauren and Owen split, Owen eventually started seeing another girl from a different town, a normal move for a teen trying to move on. Wouldn't you know it, that girl and even her mom started getting harassing texts too, eerily similar to what Lauren got. At this point, it's crystal clear, whoever this anonymous creep is, they are pathologically fixated on Owen and Lauren's lives. They're willing to torment anyone connected to Owen or Lauren. This isn't about protecting Lauren, despite some later excuses. It's like the bully can't let go of the soap opera they've created. It's a grotesque mix of helicopter parenting, stalkerish obsession, and maybe some personal vendetta that none of the victims understand yet. To recap the absurdity, for nearly 22 months, a nameless assailant is bombarding a couple of teens and collateral victims, with up to 50 texts a day, ranging from Owen's cheating lies to go kill yourself attacks. The messages use rotating spoof numbers via some app, so blocking is impossible. The language is often sexual, wildly inappropriate considering it's coming from an adult, though the teens don't yet know that. It's basically the most deranged anonymous fanfiction of a small-town teen drama, written by someone with the maturity of a drunk TikTok commenter and the malice of a movie villain. You might be wondering, where are the parents in all this? Oh, they're involved, especially Lauren's mom, who happens to be Kendra Licari. Kendra, by all appearances, is a devoted mother. When her daughter starts getting attacked by some psycho online, Kendra is right there comforting Lauren, coordinating with Owen's parents, and hounding the school and police to do something. Kendra becomes a regular PDA Nancy Drew, adamant about catching the sicko harassing her child. In the documentary, Owen's mother Jill McKenney talks about how she and Kendra were essentially partners in crime solving, working tirelessly together to find the person responsible for terrorizing their children. Kendra was livid that someone would target Lauren and Owen. She pushed the school to investigate and even suggested some creative tactics to smoke out the culprit. More on that soon. If you were in Beale City then, you'd see Kendra and assume she was a mama bear ferociously protecting her cub. Little would you suspect the truth, that she was more like the arsonist joining the bucket brigade to extinguish the very fire she lit. But I'm getting ahead of myself. At this stage in the story, nobody knows who A is. Naturally, suspicion in the small town starts to swirl. And oh boy, did the rumor mill go into overdrive. Let's talk about that chaotic investigation phase, where basically everyone except the real culprit was suspected. When the harassment first resumed in 2021 and kept intensifying, Lauren's family and school officials knew they needed help. Enter the local law enforcement, in this case, the Isabella County Sheriff's Office, led by Sheriff Mike Main. Now, I'm not here to dunk on small-town cops, okay? Maybe a little dunking. But these folks were frankly out of their depth with this cyberbullying case. The sheriff and the school did what they could. They focused on Lauren and Owen's peers as suspects, since who else would care this much about two teenagers' relationship? For months, the investigation cast a wide net of suspicion on various classmates and friends. Imagine the paranoia at Beale City High. Anyone in the halls could be the sadistic texter. Teens who were once all buddy-buddy started eyeing each other like potential felons. Lauren's friend group fractured under the distrust. It was a witch hunt, except the witch was quietly watching from the PDA meeting. One early suspect was a girl named Chloe Wilson, a friend of Owen's, if I recall. Why Chloe? Well, remember that fateful Halloween party in 2020? It was at the Wilsons' house, and initially Lauren didn't think she was invited. The bully's first wave of texts implied Owen might hook up with a girl at the Wilsons' party. Total lie, of course. In reality, when Chloe's mom Tammy heard Lauren felt unwelcome, she immediately reached out to Kendra to assure her Lauren was invited. But the damage was done, a seed of doubt had been planted. Later, when the full-on harassment was happening, some in town, and perhaps Lauren herself, wondered if Chloe could be the one behind it all, out of jealousy or something. In other words, the bullies' diversion tactics were working. They pointed the flashlight of suspicion at an innocent teen. Chloe ended up falsely accused in the court of public opinion and had to live under that cloud for a while. Side note, the poor girl's family was so upset that, according to one article, Tammy Wilson got a bit of revenge after the truth came out by making a Halloween scarecrow of Kendra in a prison jumpsuit, complete with a mask of Kendra's mugshot and phones in its hands. Talk about petty DIY justice, but I digress. The school officials tried some amateur sleuthing too. In one bizarre attempt, Kendra, ever the helpful mom, actually suggested a sting operation. Leave a pair of Lauren's shoes in plain sight at school to bait the bully into stealing or vandalizing them. Because obviously the psycho texter wouldn't be able to resist? The plan was a stretch, but hey, they were desperate. They set up the bait and watched the security cameras for any takers. The only notable thing Principal Dan Boyer observed on the CCTV was, interestingly, Kendra herself hanging around and carrying two phones. Yes, two phones on one mom. When asked, Kendra casually said one was her work phone and one personal. Plausible enough, though most folks in teeny Beale City aren't exactly high-powered executives needing a dedicated work cell. This was a red flag in hindsight, but at the time no one pursued it too hard. Well, one person did. A school secretary, Diane Fussman, later admitted her gut feeling told her maybe Kendra was behind this, because something felt off. Diane even told Principal Boyer of her suspicion, but Boyer shot it down as implausible. A mother cyberbullying her own kid? Ridiculous, right? Boyer noted Kendra was a little obsessive with her child, in Diane's words, but he just couldn't believe a parent would do this. Score 1 for Diane's intuition. She deserves a detective badge in retrospect. Meanwhile, actual detectives were floundering. The local police and even state authorities tried to trace the messages, but the bully was using some kind of spoofing/texting apps generating new numbers constantly. Tracing that without advanced tools is like whack-a-mole. The harasser also probably used VPNs or other means to cover tracks. Fitting, since Kendra had an IT background. Oh yes, she wasn't tech illiterate. It got to the point that law enforcement was frustrated and stumped. Months of investigating kids, going through school iPads or whatever, and they had nada. Meanwhile, the texts kept raining down like a biblical plague on Lauren and Owen. Throughout all this, Kendra is all in on the concerned mother act. She's attending every meeting, pressing the principal, comforting Lauren with one hand and showing angry texts to the cops with the other. She also, as later reports allege, was oversharing about the harassment to anyone who would listen. She'd show other parents the vile messages, almost reveling in the drama of it. She even texted some of Lauren's friends from her own number, urging them to be there for Lauren during this tough time. Kind of sweet, except it's like an arsonist handing out blankets at the fire they started. Kendra was effectively making herself the hero of the story publicly, the supportive mom, the advocate, while privately being the villain feeding the flames. Very narcissistic. As weeks turned into months and the hate texts continued unabated, the situation was at a stalemate. Lauren was traumatized and withdrawn. Owen was depressed and guilt-ridden. Many friendships were shattered by suspicion. The whole town of Beale City was on edge. Imagine being at the grocery store and side-eyeing the cashier, thinking, could they be the ones sending those texts? It sounds absurd, but people truly didn't know if the culprit was a peer, a random outsider, or who. The documentary interviews really capture how everyone was grasping at straws, everyone except perhaps one officer who finally decided enough was enough. By late 2022, with the case cold in the sheriff's hands, an outside resource was called in. A guy named Bradley Peters, a police officer from a larger town, Bay City, who acted as a liaison to the FBI cyber unit. Now the cavalry arrives. And folks, it took literally one IP search for the FBI tech gurus to crack what a year of small-town sleuthing could not. Sheriff Maine handed over all the case info to the FBI, and Detective Peters sent out a few search warrants to tech companies. They trace an IP address behind some of the messages, and guess where it leads? Not to Chloe, not to any student, not to some creepy guy in a basement, but straight to Kendra Licari's house, and even a specific phone number connected to Kendra herself. Cue the collective gasp. The moment of truth had finally arrived. The calls were coming from inside Lauren's own house all along. It's hard to overstate the shock value of this discovery. The detectives themselves were reportedly stunned. One day in December 2022, Sheriff Maine and another officer drove to the Licari residence armed with a search warrant, likely dreading what they were about to do, confront a mother with evidence that she had been the monster tormenting her child. And it is one of the most surreal scenes I've ever witnessed in true crime. They arrive at Kendra's door and are let in. They inform her and Lauren that they've found some evidence and have to seize electronic devices. Now, Sheriff Maine doesn't just come out and say, "It's your mom." Instead, he talks in the most roundabout, soft-pedaling way imaginable. According to transcripts of the body cam, he says something like, "You guys have been under a lot of stress. Mom got wrapped up in some stuff, and she didn't start it, but she did continue it. We found evidence and have a search warrant. Sometimes when we aren't thinking straight, we do things that aren't right." It's basically word salad. He never explicitly says, "Your mom is the one who's been texting you." So Lauren sits there listening, and from her perspective, this must have been utterly confusing. As the fog of realization settles, Lauren is hit with the devastating truth. Her own mother, Kendra, has been the anonymous bully all along. The documentary shows Lauren breaking down in tears as this reality finally dawns on her, especially once her father Sean arrives home and the family's implosion becomes real. Kendra, caught red-handed, initially plays dumb. When the cops first searched the house, she denied any involvement. But pretty soon, confronted with the digital evidence and likely the sight of her distraught daughter, Kendra confessed. According to Sheriff Maine, she sort of blurted out the excuse that it didn't start that way, implying she may not have begun the harassment but somehow got involved later. We'll dissect that dubious claim shortly. In the immediate aftermath, the body cam shows something truly twisted. Kendra attempting to comfort Lauren, trying to hug her crying daughter just moments after being unmasked as the very person who's been telling her to kill herself. Talk about nerve. Lauren, understandably, is in a state of shock, heartbroken, betrayed, and probably unable to process how the loving mom she lived with had this dark alter ego. Lauren's father, Sean, is also in shock, and what's even more crazy is that he learned not one but two horrible truths that day. One, that his wife was the cyberbully, and two, that she'd also been lying to him about having a job for the past year. Yes, Kendra had secretly quit her job in 2021 and pretended to still be working. She was literally faking Zoom calls at home while actually spending time sending anonymous texts. So Sean is standing there going, "You got laid off and never told me?" The man was stuck on the wrong detail, and some viewers found it odd he asked about her employment amid the chaos. But hey, that's a heck of a double betrayal to swallow at once. So the villain of this whole story was Lauren's mom. And absolute shockwaves through the town. Parents who had been rallying with Kendra to hunt the bully felt utterly betrayed, none more so than Owen's mom Jill, who said she felt disgusted and betrayed by Kendra's deception. Students who had been interrogated or side-eyed could finally breathe, though now they had a whole new crazy story to gossip about. And poor Lauren, she now had to grapple with the fact that the person who gave her life, who tucked her in at night, was the same person who spent hours composing messages to psychologically torture her. The reveal essentially upended Lauren's entire reality. Family, friendships, trust, everything was shattered in one fell swoop. If this were a murder mystery, this would be the unmasking of the killer in the parlor scene. And what a killer reveal it was. But unlike fiction, the story doesn't just end at the reveal. Now comes the real-world fallout. Legal consequences, attempts at explanation, and everyone asking the burning question why. Why on earth would a mother do this? With the catfish unmasked, the case moved quickly into the legal arena. In December 2022, Kendra Licari was arrested and charged with multiple felonies, including 5 counts related to stalking and using a computer to commit a crime. Ultimately, as part of a plea deal, she pleaded guilty to 2 counts of stalking a minor, Lauren and Owen being the minors. The other charges were dropped. In April of 2023, a judge sentenced Kendra to 19 months to 5 years in state prison. Kendra served about just over a year. She was released on parole on August 8, 2024. She got roughly the same amount of time in prison as 1 year of her bullying campaign, and many people felt that wasn't enough, but we'll get to the public outrage soon. Kendra stood in court and, for the first time it seems, directly apologized. Reports say she sobbed as she delivered an apology at her sentencing. Perhaps she realized the gravity only in front of a judge, or perhaps those tears were for her own predicament, who knows. But up to that point, in the investigation and even in the documentary interviews, sincere remorse was notably absent. In fact, when Kendra sat down for the Netflix documentary, yes, she agreed to be interviewed eventually, her demeanor and words did not exactly scream "I'm sorry and I was wrong." Instead, she offered a bunch of justifications and self-pitying statements that frankly made viewers' blood boil. But let's unpack Kendra's attempted motives/excuses, because this is where the pop psychology gets wild. The million-dollar question is, why did she do it? Kendra's own explanation has been muddled and, as the director Skye Borgman noted, seemed like revisionist history at times. According to Kendra, it didn't start that way, implying that maybe someone else sent the first few messages and she jumped in later to investigate and protect her daughter. If you're confused, you're not alone. She literally claimed in the doc that some unknown person began the harassment, and she only continued sending messages to see if the kids would confess who they thought it was, so she could help catch the culprit. In other words, I only catfished my daughter to find out who was catfishing my daughter. Needless to say, Lauren doesn't buy that for a second, and neither do I, nor pretty much anyone. All evidence points to Kendra being behind all the messages from the start. This "I didn't start it" tale is likely a feeble attempt for her to cling to some shred of less guilt, as if to say, "I just made a mistake and got carried away trying to solve it." Kendra also infamously said in the documentary that every single one of us makes mistakes. Not a single one of us has lived a perfect life. That realistically, a lot of us have probably broken the law at some point and not gotten caught. She even threw out an analogy like, people probably have driven drunk and not been caught, and if they were, they'd be in the same boat as her. Ma'am, Stalking and tormenting your own child for months is not a hoopsie-daisy mistake that everyone does. That quote right there enraged viewers and the internet at large, and for good reason. It came off as a huge deflection, Kendra minimizing her calculated, prolonged abuse by equating it to, essentially, minor youthful indiscretions. It's the ultimate false equivalence. Stalking your daughter for almost 2 years and sending her hate messages to kill herself is not a mistake people just make lightly. Kendra's justification tour did not win her any sympathy. It only solidified her villain status in the public eye. Now, aside from those excuses, Kendra did eventually touch on deeper reasons. She spoke about her mental state and personal history. She claimed that seeing Lauren become a teenager triggered unresolved trauma from her own youth. Specifically, Kendra says that around Lauren's age, she, Kendra, had been a victim of a sexual assault. This left her with intense fear about her daughter growing up and potentially getting hurt in the big bad world. In her warped logic, she wanted to protect Lauren by essentially controlling her social life and keeping her from harm, even if it meant being the one harming her in a twisted way. A school superintendent interviewed in the doc, Bill Chillman, described it as a case of cyber Munchausen's. You've heard of Munchausen by proxy, where a parent makes their child sick to get attention as the heroic caregiver. This is the digital version. Kendra terrorized her daughter so that she could swoop in as the sympathetic mother, thereby securing her daughter's dependency and everyone's attention. Chillman put it succinctly, she wanted her daughter to need her so much that she was willing to hurt her, versus physically making her ill, which is typical Munchausen behavior. In Kendra's mind, she breaks Lauren down with one hand and offers comfort with the other, making herself indispensable. It's a chilling, narcissistic motive. The arsonist firefighter, as we said. Others have theorized even darker angles, namely that Kendra had developed a predatory obsession with Owen, Lauren's boyfriend. The documentary didn't heavily emphasize this, but many viewers picked up on clues, like the fact that Kendra continued harassing Owen and his new girlfriend, long after Lauren was out of the picture. Like, why target Owen's new girlfriend a year later if this was just about protecting Lauren? The answer: it wasn't about Lauren at all by that point. It was about Kendra's own infatuation or fixation on Owen. Essentially, she may have been jealous of her daughter's relationship or even subconsciously competing with her daughter for Owen's attention. I know, gross, but we have to consider the possibility given the evidence. Owen himself said in the doc that he felt Kendra had a weird obsession with him. So imagine a 40-something mom essentially lusting after or living vicariously through her teen daughter's boyfriend. That casts the sexual nature of the messages in an even more disturbing light. A grown woman talking about sucking and other things, a 13-year-old boy. If it had been a father obsessing over a teen girl in this way, people would likely be calling him a predator outright. If it was a man doing this, the backlash would be even harsher. So, in summary, the motives appears to be a toxic blend of narcissism, need for control, generational trauma rearing its head, and possibly perverse personal obsession. Kendra herself doesn't seem to fully comprehend why she did it, and perhaps never will or won't admit it. As the director Borgman said, "I don't know that she really knows why she did it." Kendra's answers during the 5-hour interview were partly truthful and partly, shall we say, self-serving. Borgman suspects Kendra is still rewriting the narrative to make herself look less terrible, a classic trait of someone with narcissistic tendencies. In the aftermath, Lauren has had to navigate truly complex emotions. The doc's emotional core is Lauren's journey from confusion to betrayal to, astonishingly, a place of forgiveness, or at least the attempt at it. Initially, Lauren was so devastated yet so longing for her mom's love that she even expressed, "I love her more than anything," and wanted her mom back in her life. Remember, this is her only mother, the same mom who braided her hair, drove her to games. Kendra was literally Lauren's basketball coach and was a daily presence. The cognitive dissonance is massive. By the time of filming, Lauren was 18 and had done a lot of reflecting. She decided to study criminology in college, likely inspired by what she went through. I half expect her to become an FBI agent one day, catching creeps like her mom. Lauren said she wants to trust her mom again, but doesn't think she can, at least not yet. She's cautious, which is wise. As of the latest info, part of Kendra's parole conditions likely included no contact with her minor victim, meaning Lauren and Kendra had to keep distance until legal clearance. Now that Lauren is 18, I'm not sure if they've started communicating again. Lauren indicated she hopes they can rebuild something in the future, because despite it all, Kendra is her mother and Lauren has that deep love for her. That is incredibly empathetic of her, more than Kendra deserves, many would say. But it shows her strength and heart that she doesn't want this to be the end of their story. On the flip side, Lauren's relationship with her father grew much stronger. Sean became her rock after this all exploded. She says, "We just bond so well together," describing how her dad really stepped up. It's touching to see at least one parent-daughter bond strengthened by this tragedy. Sean, now a single dad, has to pick up the pieces of a family wrecked by the person he once loved. There's a whole side combo we could have about Sean, like, did he notice nothing off about his wife during those 15 months? The sneaking around at odd hours texting? The 2 phones? Some folks side-eye him for obliviousness, but I won't pile on. The guy was also deceived big time. And what about Owen? After being victimized and essentially emotionally abused by his girlfriend's mom, Owen is doing his best to move on. He went on to college and plays baseball there, focusing on his future. Unsurprisingly, his relationship with Lauren did not survive the ordeal. In fact, Lauren and Owen no longer speak at all as a result of what happened. It's sad. They lost not just their innocent love, but also a friendship because of Kendra's actions. Owen's family has said they feel forever changed. His mom Jill described being unable to trust people she once considered close after being double-crossed by her friend Kendra. The McKennies, Owen's parents, understandably want nothing to do with Kendra ever again. As for Kendra in the aftermath, she served her time, short as it was, and is out on parole as of 2024. She's in her mid-40s with the label convicted felon attached to her name forever. She lost her job, well, she had already lost it, but now good luck getting a new one in a small town where everyone knows what she did. Her marriage is presumably over. I can't imagine Sean taking her back after that level of betrayal. She might be living with relatives or on her own in some nearby area. According to interviews, after getting out of prison, Kendra wanted to be part of Lauren's life again. She likely has to undergo therapy, and I truly hope she is, because if anyone needed intensive psychological help, it's Kendra. This case got so infamous that it even inspired a Lifetime movie. No joke. In May 2024, before the Netflix doc dropped, Lifetime released a dramatized film called Mommy Meanest, based on Kendra's story. Yes, they went for the punny title. If that doesn't cement Kendra's legacy as a notorious villain, I don't know what does. When your misdeeds become a Lifetime movie and a Netflix doc, you have officially made the Bad Mom Hall of Shame. So, with the dust settling, the town of Beale City is left with a lot of scars. But the story doesn't quite end there, because the internet got hold of it and, in true 2020s fashion, turned it into a spectacle of discussion and memes. Once Netflix dropped this documentary, within minutes the internet blows a collective gasket. Shocked viewers across X, TikTok, Reddit, you name it, unleashed fury at Catfish Mom Kendra. One viral tweet summed it up, blasting the narcissism and caucasity of Kendra, trying to gaslight everyone that she just wasn't herself when she told her 13-year-old daughter to kill herself. Sickest stuff ever, one tweet declared, and judging by the 170K views, thousands of likes, and a sea of angry comments, people wholeheartedly agreed. In other words, Kendra instantly became America's new favorite true crime villain, complete with pitchfork-wielding social media mob. But internet outrage has a twin sister, dark humor. Soon Kendra's tear-streaked face and phone-clutching hands were immortalized in memes. Her on-camera sobbing? Meme gold. And if it couldn't get any worse, it didn't take long for viewers to start roasting Kendra's on-screen presence. The internet has a brutal way of coping with shock, and in this case, people started comparing her cold stares and awkward crying faces. Users also captioned images of Kendra looking at her phone with snark like, "Me leaving bad reviews at my gym so it'll be less crowded." The cool mom who tried to play victim became a running joke. Picture Kendra's mugshot taped onto a scarecrow at a local Halloween party, complete with an orange jumpsuit and dummy cell phones in its straw hands. Yes, that actually happened in her small town, where residents literally made a scarecrow effigy of her. Dark comedy doesn't get more literal than a Kendra scarecrow scaring the neighborhood kids on Halloween. And speaking of the neighborhood, folks in Beale City had this scandal on the brain. Talk of community watch parties swirled, nothing like hometown popcorn-fueled schadenfreude. Though at least one family member decided not to watch the documentary, deciding it'd be too emotional to relive this whole thing again. Probably for the best, because once you've built a catfish scarecrow, the group therapy session writes itself. Yet amid the memes and mocking, there was real criticism of the documentary's framing. Many viewers cried foul that the film tiptoed around the creepiest subplot, Kendra's obsession with her daughter's boyfriend, Owen. Why, they asked, did a grown woman continue harassing Owen's new girlfriend a year after the teens broke up? Good question. That sinister detail, Kendra targeting the boy even beyond her daughter, screamed predatory fixation. It sure undercuts Kendra's claim that all this was about protecting her child. As one fed-up commenter put it, she was obsessed with Owen. The end. Why didn't the Netflix crew ask her real questions? To many, it felt like the real story, predatory mom coach, got glossed over in favor of a flashier high school catfishing headline. In plainer terms, the doc went a little easy on Kendra, downplaying the darkest parts of this saga and, in some eyes, letting her work the narrative. Note: seeing Kendra sob and hug her daughter after all that torment had viewers practically yelling at their screens. Talk about audacity, or as the internet rebranded it, caucasity. Now, let's talk armchair psychology. As previously mentioned, the documentary floated the notion that perhaps Kendra had a rare mental disorder. Kendra herself tried the sympathy card, blaming suppressed childhood trauma for her actions. The world's tiniest violin plays. Did viewers buy it? Not really. Instead, many saw a textbook narcissist manipulating everyone and refusing responsibility. Kendra minimized and deflected blame in her interviews, never truly owning up. She claimed some mystery bully started it and she only joined in to help, a story about as believable as me starting a diet right before Thanksgiving. The truth, as internet sleuths and an exasperated public concluded, was far less exotic. Kendra made conscious choices, hundreds of them, to traumatize two kids. Trauma might explain wounds, but it doesn't excuse turning into the monster under your own child's bed. In this tale, the call was literally coming from inside the house, and no sob story could make that any less horrific. And so we arrive at the uncomfortable lesson of this whole wild ride. Betrayal most often comes from those closest to us, the ones we'd least expect. In Beale City's case, the trusted cool mom was actually the puppeteer of her daughter's nightmare. It's the stuff of both Lifetime movies and Reddit memes, a cautionary tale reminding us that sometimes the biggest red flags are the ones we refuse to see. This saga forces an inward glance at parenting gone wrong, how a parent's narcissism can morph into a twisted need for control and validation at a child's expense. Kendra's actions are an extreme and extremely dumb example of how not to parent. This cyberbullying awareness isn't just about stranger danger. It's about recognizing that the bully might share your last name. The case also spotlighted a sort of collective naivete, a whole town and two families blinded by the assumption that good moms simply don't do that. Sometimes they do, and they might even be coaching the basketball team. In the end, we're left with a blend of horror and absurdity. Horror at the unfathomable betrayal of a mother toward her own child, and absurdity in the almost cartoonish lengths of deception, and the town's equally cartoonish response of scarecrows and memes. The Unknown Number documentary may have wrapped up, but the conversation it sparked is still going. Parents are nervously double-checking family group texts. Teens have a new cautionary proverb, beware the mom with too many cell phones. And the rest of us are left marveling at just how far a personal trauma or obsession, unchecked and unhinged, can go. Yet, amid the finger-pointing and think pieces, there's a strange comfort in the public turning this dark saga into dark comedy. We cope by cracking jokes, by making memes, by dressing a scarecrow in prison orange. At the end of the day, trauma may shape us, but it doesn't justify a crime. And Kendra's choices wrote her into the Dumb Criminal Hall of Fame. Her story has it all: betrayal, small-town drama, generational ghosts, and a crash course in how not to handle your midlife crisis. And that's the twisted tale of the high school catfish and its aftermath. If you've made it this far, I have to ask, what were your thoughts on this documentary? Did you realize it was the mom early? Drop it in the comments. Let's get this discussion going. And if you liked this video, please make sure to like and subscribe, and also tell me what crazy absurd true crime story you would like me to cover next. Until next time.